Welcome to the Chain Out Podcast with your hosts, Jeremy and Daryl.
That's right. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 91 of the Chain Out Podcast. Your super host, Daryl here, and your humble co-host, Jeremy, right here. How's everybody doing tonight? How you doing, Daryl?
I'm doing great. Never been called a super host before.
Yeah, well, you deserve it. I listened to our amazing episode with Elaine King last week.
Yeah.
And you really did a great job. You carried that along. I was away and it was
I
fantastic.
think we need to rename the studio. I think we're going to call this Tournament Central.
Ooh.
Yeah, 'cause this is where the magic was happening last week. Yeah.
Certainly was. And I was thinking that Tournament Central right here, or the Chain Out
Chain Out no,
Podcast Studio in the heart of Alberta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But we're
I don't know.
back.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We got a great episode this week.
We do.
Yeah. We thought last episode was good enough. This week we will be joined by Team Canada. I think that's what we nicknamed them. Not nicknamed because they were at Team Canada. We're going to be joined by Thomas Gilbert and Sophia Donica. They were just out at the World Games over in Chengdu, China. So we'll be talking to them a little bit later on to find out how that all went for Team Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we're going to be speaking to the owner, the operator, the course designer, Nationals TD, Gabe Robinson, for Project 15. That's going to be exciting.
I am excited for that one. It's been a long time coming, our conversation with Gabe. We've tried it once before. We hope it goes a little smoother this time.
Yeah.
So how are the listeners? We see we're out there. Who do we got in the chat right now?
Oh, yeah, we got loads of people in the chat. Alex Penny's in the chat. Nicest man in disc golf.
Yes.
Doc is in the chat as well. Always being super communicative. That's a big word.
Yeah,
being active in the chat.
Did you read a dictionary before the show?
Right. Sam's in the chat. Sonia's in the chat. Everyone's in the chat. I'm sure Dylan's lurking there as well. We got other people lurking. If you're in the chat, say hi.
Yeah. And tell us how Ratings Day treated you. Ratings Day was this week. We want to know. Let us know in the comments. Did you go up? Did you go down? I did check Daryl on some friends of the show, and I think we should let people know. And you and I can maybe take turns here. But
go for it.
One of our friends of the show, Mark Thompson, he hit a milestone.
Yeah.
He got over 900 for the first time. He's at 901. So congrats to Mark.
You know, I do have a button.
There we go.
That's lean, but it's not quite accessible. Another friend of the show, as you mentioned, somebody who finally made it back to 1,000 rated, went up 7 points. Winning a couple of A tiers will do that to you. Noah Higgins back to 1,000 rated. So congrats to Noah.
Yeah, congrats, Noah. And then also one of our more recent guests on the show, Jessica Goulet, who had won the Tournament Capital Open. She went out and played that.
Yeah.
We talked to her. That was awesome. We talked to her. She was in Victoria on the harbor there.
Yeah.
It was a good background. Well, she is over 900, I think, for the first time.
Right.
She took a 9-point jump, and she's at 905 rated. So congratulations,
Jessica. Now, do you know, these people are obviously going up, but we know there's some people out there that maybe your ratings went down a little bit. You took that little bit of a drop. And I have a surefire way. Now, I'm going to let you all into a little secret. There's a surefire way to keep your rating from going down.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready.
Just don't play any tournaments and then you stay where you are. Because that's what happened to me. I didn't play any tournaments from the last couple of updates, actually. So I've stayed where I am.
Well, that's because you've been doing a lot of volunteering. You're with the Edmonton Disc Golf Association. Yeah. You're a board member. You're taking pictures. You're volunteering. So you're doing
at Large work. Communications. That's what I am, Jeremy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're sitting still strong at 861.
Yes.
Now, I did play some tournaments, Daryl. Did I go up? Am I now the host of the Chain Out Podcast?
Oh, because that was the ruling, right?
That was the ruling. I think Doc helped us with that.
Yeah.
Am I the super host for the next little while? No. But I'm closing the gap. I'm at 857, so I'm getting closer to you. I got 4 points to catch up.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing it just because I want to preserve my rating. I'm just giving you a chance to catch up. I don't want to extend it anymore. Sonia says she's not a fan of not playing tournaments, so she says nah. Sam says boo. And Doc says the Tyler Brickley fan. I'm not sure exactly who that is, but I'm guessing that's a reference. Do you know?
I do not know, but I'll tell you, Doc can be a little spicy, so don't just randomly throw his comments up there. I have no idea what that is.
Okay, fair enough. I don't think it's anything bad.
All right.
Doc, you wouldn't do that to me, would you? You wouldn't secretly plant something for me to put up on screen that has a different meaning? Anyway, moving on.
Last week we were excited to have Elaine King on the show, and when we had asked her about her first PDGA tournament, which was the Flat Classic, and it was the number 2 happening out in St. Thomas, Ontario. Now, this past weekend was, Daryl, the 39th Flats Classic.
That's amazing, right? I mean, it's so good that it's been going that long.
Yeah, exactly. And St. Thomas is one of those original Ontario locations for disc golf.
Right.
Yeah. So former guest on the show and friend of the show, Martin Hendel, took down the MPO side of the event.
Nice.
There were no FPOs, so there's no one who took down that side.
Right.
But it was good to see Martin playing again, as he was kind of sidelined there for about 2 months or so with a knee injury.
Right.
And another thing with Ratings Day, Mr. Marty Hendel is currently the 2025 highest rated Canadian MPO player. So you have to have played a tournament in 2025 to be on that list on PDGA.
Right.
So he's sitting at 1016 rated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's all right.
I got a bit of news, and I can put this out to the chat and see what they think as well. Now, you mentioned about being MPO.
Right.
Having to have played an event. Now, I did mention that I haven't played any events, or I've played a couple of events, but not too many.
Right.
Obviously, we're going out to Canadian Nationals next month, so that will be an event that I'll be playing, and it's going to be a tough course. So I don't know how that's going to affect our ratings, but we do have Kristen Swirls in the Edmonton area. She did one last year, but she's going to be putting on 2 get in, get out, get rated events.
Yeah.
Later on in the year. Now, I think I may have mentioned this to you before, but I'm kind of on the fence, and I want to hear what people think. Now, I'm 49. I know I don't look it.
No.
I surprised a lot of people there.
Not
right?
a day over 45.
Exactly. So next year, I'll be eligible to play MA50.
Yes.
I'll get away from this guy for a couple of years. But, I mean, it doesn't mean I can't drop down and play with you whenever I need to. But what I was thinking, just for the get in, get out, get rated, and just to say that I could or have.
Right.
I'm thinking about, if I do a get in, get out, get rated, I'm thinking about signing up for I've got to sign up this year for MP40.
Sweet.
What do people think about, if you can, signing up for? I mean, I guess if you're young enough, you don't really have an option other than going pro to go MPO or FPO.
Yes.
Like I have the option, I can go FPO. Sorry, I have the option, I can go MPO, MP40, and then next year I'll be able to go MP50.
Right.
So I've got, multiple options, but yeah. What do people think about?
I think you're the super co-host, so you should be pro.
Go pro at least once, just to say you've tried it. I know I'm not going to take cash, so I've got no discrepancies about ever trying to play Am Worlds, because I think that's the ruling, that if you accept cash as a pro, you're no longer eligible to play Am Worlds.
And then there's a ton of hoops you have to jump through to get back down to Am after that.
Probably if you wanted to, or but
well, I think you should. I would say. Well, and speaking about pros, what do we got?
Sam says that he's pretty excited for those events.
Yeah.
And he also said he was thinking about going in for MPO for those events. I think you should do it, Sam.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And you're talking about pros, so why don't we do that a little bit?
Let's do it.
This past weekend on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, they played their last event in Europe, the Turku Open in Finland. And there was no Canadians at the event, but the players will be back in North America for the Ledgestone Open in Peoria, Illinois, which starts tomorrow, Thursday. We do have some Canadians playing in the event, so watch for Ontario's Kalen Schatt, a member of Redeemer University's college team.
Yeah.
He's going to be playing on the MPO side. And then on the FPO side, who do we got, Daryl?
Oh, we got the usual suspects. We've got Miss Frisbees. Chantel Bedinsky's going to be down there. And, of course, Rebecca Dawn as well.
Yeah.
And then there's also a host of amateurs in there as well. So look out for all of them. Best of luck to all our Canadian players down there.
Yeah. That's one of those nice things about Ledgestone, is that Ledgestone has the pro side of it.
Yeah.
But it is big enough that they have an AM one. And I think it's one of those tournaments where they have those epic player packs as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that'll be a good tournament to keep an eye on. We also have a giveaway. We talked about it a little bit last week that we had closed off our latest giveaway, which was for this X-UFO Star Bat from Stephen Willem from Discworks. He actually stamps discs. It's a beauty. It's got this great Calgary stamp on it. Well, if you can put great and Calgary in the same sentence,
exactly.
then you can, because it's got a lot of cool designs on there. Everything from the Calgary Tower to the Saddle Dome and more.
Yeah.
So, Daryl, do we have a spin to see who won this?
Do we?
Do we? I hope.
Yes, we do. Let's see who won. Congratulations, Michael.
Yes. So, Michael, you have won this amazing Star Bat, and we will reach out to you through
Facebook.
Facebook, is that where it was?
Yep.
Came from? Okay, we'll reach out to you through Facebook, and we'll find out where you are and get this disc your way. Hopefully you are in Canada or somewhere close. But no matter what, we'll find our way to get it there.
Exactly.
Could you imagine someone just like, yeah, I'm in Australia. They're not, but they just want us to mail it.
Yeah. That would be funny.
All right. We do have another giveaway for you because we love giving things away, don't we, Daryl?
That's what this podcast does.
Yeah. And this giveaway is from Alex Penny, who's in the chat.
Yeah.
I saw him not that long ago, and he gave me this amazing cold garden cup hat from the Limber Open. Actually, yeah, part of Cold Garden, the Limber Open.
Yeah.
They had these amazing hats with this cool kind of 80s neon. They did some amazing jerseys as well. So we'll give this one away. We'll put up a post for that and get that out to a lucky winner for maybe for the next one.
Yeah. Stay tuned to our socials.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the young kids say.
We're always hip to the slang, aren't we? We know what we're talking about. And I know we're not, because when Luc Levesque came on, I think I was lost half the interview.
Exactly.
He's got a lot of awesome slang.
Yeah.
So we should mention our sponsors really quick here. And we'll talk about BR Disc Golf, who has been sponsoring us as the disc golf store that you can make some purchases from. You can get 10% off if you use the code CHAINOUT at checkout.
Yep.
And we've been talking about it for a while, but it's finally here. And that's Gabe Piska's Kids in Motion fundraiser tournament happening out at Dog Rump Creek in Stony Plain. I've registered for the tournament. I'll be there. I don't think you've got a chance. You might drop in. You're not sure yet?
Yeah. I'm playing it by ear.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
And then also you can get 10% off at Cardinal using the code CHAINOUT and go chain space out on that one at checkout. And you could get one of Gannon Burr's many multiple jerseys.
Exactly. Have you seen those new World Champion jerseys?
Oh, they look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought there was only one, and you educated me that there's multiple colorways.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a blue and green, or a blue and yellow, blue and gold, I think. And then there's a red. And then the one that I really like is the kind of a ice white and blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty sweet.
Well, I went on the website, and as for actual designs, and that design, that new one for his Worlds is a Cobb design. And we know that's like what you're wearing right now is one of the Cobb designs.
That guy right there.
Yeah.
If you can see.
So Gannon's on, so like we said before with Cannon, or with Cardinal and Gannon.
Yeah.
He's now got like 7 different jerseys with that.
Right.
I don't know if they love this or if they're not sure on it. I guess it depends on how many sell, right?
Hey, you write it in the contract. That's what you have to put up with.
That's it. Well, after the Chain Out podcast, we will have our fantasy picks episode for you. We'll be making our picks for the Canadian A tier, the Eastern Canadian Amateur Nationals, happening in, never know if I'm saying it right, if it's Bourget or Bourget or Bourget.
I would say Bourget, but I said that last time we covered the Eastern Canadian AMs and you corrected me. So
all right. Well, it's there in Ontario. And tonight we're going to have Robbie Holden. And if you're familiar with that name, maybe you've heard from him. He's on the Missed Mando podcast. So it's actually a combination of 2 podcasts coming together, and he'll be joining us to make the guest picks. So check out our Patreon page and you can get the free link to join us there.
Yeah.
Now I see we have one guest waiting in the room. Hey,
we are 50% there. So I would say, let's just roll with it. And
the other guest will jump in. We know.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. You guys didn't hear it, but we heard it. There was a little ring in our ears, which tells us that the next guest is jumping on and joining. So,
but not just yet, because this next guest is not quite ready.
well, they've gotten to the green room.
Yeah, they're just getting themselves settled.
Getting
just
settled,
yeah,
making sure that they're
cracking the bottle of water. They're checking the M&Ms to make sure there's no blue ones in there.
Yeah, that's right.
All of that type of stuff.
Well, and these two guests that we're going to have on, they've traveled a lot lately.
They've been in our green room quite a lot. They know what to expect by now.
That's right. I think you were saying one of these guests actually has their own button on your thing.
Yeah,
now?
I'll get to that in a second. But what I will say is the second guest that just joined, Sophia, can you can you go landscape for me? Because I'd really appreciate that. But you don't know about that, listeners. So we'll get to the intro, Jeremy, and we'll go right to it.
All right. We are excited to have two of Canada's best disc golfers join us to chat about their recent trip to China for the World Games. Join us in welcoming
You're good.
Sophia Donica and Tom.
Doing pretty good.
Hey, Sophia, can you hear us?
Too.
Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic. It's great to have the two of you on the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us again. We feel you guys are really racking up the numbers on the Chain Out podcast for the amount of times you've been here. I don't know who has the most appearances, but you're right up there.
Yeah, nice. But like Jeremy was saying,
you're wearing the shirt right now?
Yeah. Why didn't I wear mine?
Hey. I feel like running go change.
Yeah, exactly, right? I might do that in a minute.
So you were
saying? I was just going to say that you've been on the podcast so many times now, Thomas. You've even got your own little button that I don't even change for any of the newer guests. Like, you've got your own button now, so you're part of the furniture.
Awesome. Love that.
So it's great to have you both back on the show. The two of you have been quite the world travelers. Now, Sophia, we saw from your rock face there. Now, Thomas, are you back in Ontario now?
I am, yes. Yeah, I'm out in Ottawa already for the ATR coming up this weekend.
Fantastic.
Can you give us any insight? Is it Bourget?
I don't know. Yeah, it's one of the three for sure.
There you go.
Well, and for those who don't know, both of you headed over to Europe a little while ago for Worlds and some other DGPT events. And then that was just before you headed down to China for the World Games. How long were the two of you away for? Thomas, were you guys away the same amount of time, or?
Sophia was a little bit longer than me. I believe she was there for the two Norway events, and then I joined after that. So
slow at all, or is it all good?
Your audio is good. Your video is a little bit glitchy, but we can work with it. It's nothing. It's nothing too. You're clear, but it's just a little bit glitchy.
Would it be hard for me to switch to my computer?
No, go right ahead. Now? Yeah, go right ahead.
I'll try that.
Okay.
Just in case it's just a Wi-Fi thing.
Okay. You're putting me on the op because I'm gonna go back to us for now.
Okay. So yeah, and I would think that as Sophia's changing out to her computer there, and they were both away. So yeah, 3 and 5 weeks away on the road. And really, when we were looking to with Thomas, he's traveled. It feels like we talked about it a few times. Every time we talk to him, he's done that kind of video, that summary each year of all the places that he's been. And we keep saying that this year's version of it is just going to be so much more. I'm thinking he's probably exceeded the miles traveled already. Would you think this year?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like, we had a question a bit later on about, what the pros are doing next. And it just seems like Thomas hasn't taken a break. He's gone from event to event to event to event. Like, he's just been going nonstop. So if he's not traveled more than he did last year, I'd be surprised.
Yeah. Should we ask him? We might as well ask him.
Yeah, you can ask.
What do you think, Thomas?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I started later this year than I did last year. And so I believe that it'd probably be pretty close. I mean, definitely flying wise, I've covered way more miles than I did last year, just going out to Europe and then to China and then back around all the way to Toronto. Right. Like, it's crazy to think, but in the last 4 weeks, I actually did a full lap and then some of the world because I flew from Vancouver to Estonia, and then was Estonia, Finland back, continuing to go east and towards China, and then back east around the opposite side all the way down to Toronto. So They literally did a lap of the world in the last month.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Does it feel like, are you at a point where, like, because you've traveled for so long, is it like you just don't know where you are, where you're waking up the next day? Or are you kind of like in one place long enough that it's not so bad for you?
Usually in one place long enough that's not too bad, but that first of like moving from one bed to another bed is like a really weird one because like your body kind of gets used to it. Like you wake up in the middle of the night and you like kind of know, okay, yeah, like I'm in this part of this house or whatever,
Yeah.
and or this bed in this hotel room, and like I remember I woke up. The first night I was back in Canada, and I was like convinced in my mind that it was still the hotel room for me and Sophia stayed in Chengdu, and I was like, wait a sec, no, no, this is definitely not China anymore.
Yeah.
There you
That's
go.
awesome.
Well, now that we have you both back, let's get to the World Games, and I'm going to give a little bit of information for our listeners here. So the World Games has been something we've been looking forward to all the way since last year when we had kind of caught our radar.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little research on the games, and what we found out was that the first World Games were held back in 1981 in Santa Clara, California. And it's normally held every 4 years. There were a couple little differences there recently. It's been 24 years since disc golf was last included in the World Games.
Mm-hmm.
So, needless to say, it was a big deal to have disc golf back. And then, as you said, this year it was held in Chengdu, China, a city with 20 million people in it, Daryl.
Yeah.
So between athletes and officials, there can be 5,000 people at the games participating in 34 sports, 60 disciplines with 256 medals available. So that's the breakdown.
Yeah.
So let's start with you, Sophia. I wanted to ask you, have you ever been to China before? And what were your first impressions knowing that this is what you were getting into?
Yeah. So this was my first time in China, and just stop me if there's any lag or anything.
Yeah,
But
you're
yeah,
good.
my first time in Asia even, and I knew it was going to be sort of like super different from anything I'd ever experienced, and it really was. And on top of that, this was by far the biggest sporting event I've ever been to, and I was at Worlds the week before, like the biggest world in history of disc golf, and then I'd been
Wow.
to like rowing junior world championships. So I'd done a fair amount of international sporting events. But this was by far the biggest um, undertaking of an event I'd ever seen. There was like security everywhere and just athletes from all over the world and like Olympic teams. Like it was
Yeah.
just really amazing. And I was just in awe all the time. Like you're in the dining hall eating next to like the best athletes coming and representing their country. So it's definitely a really special atmosphere. And it's really cool to see. And like hopefully one day Olympics or the disc golf can be in the Olympics, which is this felt like basically what I imagine the Olympics
Mm-hmm.
would feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a few posts on social media of you and Thomas, signing hats and signing things for people that were coming up to you. When you're in a big event like this, and you, like you said, you're there with other athletes that are best in their field. Were either of you kind of like fanboy and fangirling out, trying to get signatures from other people?
Sadly, we did not have as much time as we might have liked to go and watch other athletes in sports.
Right.
Like the ultimate team was in another athlete village, which was like I think like a 40-minute shuttle ride, and with all the
Yeah.
matches and like we only had a day and a half kind of to play the course. So there was really not that much time for us to venture out and see other sports. I think that would have, if we'd stayed for the duration of the games, we would have spent a lot of time watching sports, but we
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically left the day after our last match. So there really wasn't as much time as I would have liked to just sort of watch other athletes, but we did get to meet other athletes. We actually had like beers with the Canadian softball team on our last night there. They were just
That's
like parked
fun.
up in the dining hall. Of course, the Canadian softball team like comes in the dining hall with like a big box of Budweiser bottles, like extra large. And we were like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then they're like, "Care to join for a beer?" And we're like, "Yeah, please."
That's
And
awesome.
it was so nice after like 8 weeks of being like in the US and in Europe and then in China to like hear the good old the Canadian accents like just
Yeah.
going around the table talking about talking about back home, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Well, is it true too? I think when I was looking, Canada's doing okay on the medals, but the men's slow pitch they won, or the softball they won the gold. Did they not? Did you guys see? No,
Third.
we went third. Okay, third.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, they still
So
got a
yeah,
medal.
Yeah.
they did. They got a bronze medal. Yeah, and then the actually the final game for at least men's softball got rained out, and so I think it was U.S. and Japan got like a co-gold medal for at least softball.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I wanted to throw in there too for Sophia and get your thoughts too on just the whole size and the difference when you travel the world and you go to a place like this, and the fact that we looked at the metropolitan area, not just the city, but the metropolitan area of Victoria, BC, and there's about 400,000 people. And then Chengdu has 20 million. Like, was that a bit of a culture shock for the two of you? I know you're in Toronto there, Thomas, where it's a little bit bigger, but still.
For sure. I mean, by far, yeah. Like you look at the map of like, and you're like in this area, and like it
Yeah.
feels pretty big, but it's like surrounded by other areas, and like you just like look, you get to a high point, and you look down the street, and like there's sky rises around you, but then like way off in the distance, they just keep going, and it's
Yeah.
sort of actually. I don't know if you've seen the movie Blade Runner, but like when I was landing the plane and when I was like going around and seeing parts of China, I felt like
Mhm.
almost like it was like this dystopian city where it's just like endless city and
Yeah.
like pockets and
Yeah.
corners that you could explore. Like you could just live there all your life and not see like even like half of it, you know? So definitely
Wow.
like it was like intimidating, but also like as I got used to being there and like figured out how to like pay for things on my phone and use Google Translate in an easy way, get an eSIM and like actually like have the resources to like navigate. We even got on the metro to see the pandas with Missy and Team USA. So like we actually kind of like did a little bit of exploring independently. Like we learned how to use like Didi, which is like Uber. So it was like, okay, yeah, like I could go back and like kind of do this on my own if I wanted to. Whereas when I arrived, I was like, I am like at the mercy of the organization of this event, and like
Yeah.
they're responsible for getting me to where I'm sleeping and getting me back, and like but by the end of the trip, like I feel like now would be able to go back and even travel solo if I wanted to.
Wow.
So that was kind of a cool feeling. But yeah, the city it's huge and it's really like I don't know if I want to live there, but it was really like amazing to experience.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you say that you went there and it was all new to you and you had to kind of figure it out, did you have like a overall Team Canada liaison, someone that was pointing you in the right direction for everything, or was it just you and Thomas bumbling through the streets
Um,
trying to figure out where to go, sort of thing?
I
Bumbling through the
mean, we
street.
like like we teamed up with like Missy and Tom and Matt and Gannon a lot to do things.
Right.
Mhm.
And Tom, Missy's caddy, is like amazing. He like organizes a lot of things and he's the best. And then Whiff Diff had like an overall representative like giving us information about like how to get a visa and stuff. But
Hmm.
for the most part, it was just me and Thomas sort of making sure we were like showing up to our matches on time and
Mhm.
getting our jerseys done. So it was like a lot of it fell into us in terms of like actually pulling through with stuff,
Right.
which was like other teams had a little bit more help there, but I think it did work out in the end. So
Well,
like
that's good.
Thomas is pretty responsible.
Sophia and some of the other disc golfers from the other countries as well. And it was showing the opening ceremonies, and that looked like quite an ordeal and quite an event. What can you tell us about that opening ceremonies experience?
Yeah, it was the very last second because we had like a players meeting with the all the countries like 2 or 3 hours before, like maybe not even 2 hours before we needed to leave for the opening ceremony, and that's when they
Okay.
actually gave us our like passes to go to the opening ceremony, and so it was like really tough because you also had to then potentially sacrifice like your afternoon of practice to go to the opening ceremonies, and like to me I already kind of decided like before I went to the event that like the opening ceremonies is one of the coolest like things you can experience as an athlete, because you're there, you're with your entire country, you're all walking out onto this like stage and representing, waving your flags, waving to the crowds, and so like that to me was just the number one like experience that you can experience as an athlete, other than playing well and competing and potentially medaling in your sport, like one of the best experiences you can get. And it was incredible. Like I was at the opening ceremonies of the 2015 Pan Am Games because they were hosted in Toronto, and this was like 10 times better than that.
Wow.
Which
Okay.
is crazy because like Pan Am Games are also a very huge sporting event, and the like in Chengdu they took it so seriously and professional. They like it was the most spectacular maybe performance I've ever watched in person. Like it
Wow.
was incredible.
Yeah. Wow.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm kind of blown away. I know we had a question in the chat here just quickly. You mentioned about the city. Sonia wanted to know, did you experience like the different levels? Because I know sometimes you'll see that
Mm.
some posts where you'll walk into a building, you think you're on the main floor, and then you walk out the back of the building and realize you're on the 28th floor. Like, is it that type? Did you see that sort of thing in and around the city?
I know there's a city like 2 hours away where it's like intense like that, where you're like where there's like so many layers and streets and stuff stacked like
Right.
that. But I did not go to that part. Like Chengdu itself was pretty flat
Right.
overall, so like you can't really get tricked into being like on a hillside or but I have seen photos of that city and I really wanted to I just didn't have time. I didn't book any
Yeah.
travel time outside because I was like, I do not trust myself to solo travel in China yet. And now
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I think next time I would buffer some time in to like do more sightseeing because we
Yeah,
really
me
only
too.
got out of the athlete village on 2 occasions, once to see the pandas and then one time to meet the first disc golf shop in China and kind
Oh,
of hang out with the
Nice.
local golfers, which was really fun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I did do I did, like around near the athletes village there's a really cool sort of old buildings kind of stacked with more brand new glass buildings and um it was kind of cool how they integrated like it seems like the cities they tend to like build on themselves, so like they have this brand new architecture like as part of the same building as like really old traditional Chinese architecture, and it was very stunning and interesting to sort of yeah just look around when you walk in
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just
No.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely sounds amazing.
Hmm.
Just wanted to bring it back to
But
the disc golf.
apparently there was disc golf happening too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
um, Thomas, when we looked at it, it looked like the disc golf portion was on just one course. What did you think about that course?
Yeah, I think they did an amazing job. The actual like property of the course was spectacular. It was like one of the most pristine, beautiful courses that I've actually ever experienced. Like everything was perfect in place, manicured. Like all the landscaping and greenery there was like spotless, and they did an amazing job actually integrating like really good, complex disc golf holes to kind of like really test your game. Like they had these giant turnover shots, like big hyzers, like straight like tunnel gap shots, and you definitely could use a little bit of like distance to your advantage of that course, by
Hmm.
just kind of going a little bit higher than some of the tree lines and some of the holes. But
Right.
I honestly felt like they did a great job, and like I would almost put it like on par with the Estonian major in terms of like
Wow.
park use for a disc golf course. So I
Yeah.
think they did an amazing job. There was like maybe only two holes that I feel like they could have tweaked to make better, but
Yeah.
I mean, we already like kind of discussed that with the feedback with the team there, and they kind of agree that if I don't know if I'll ever be a chance to play that course again, but
Right.
like, yeah, definitely some
Yeah.
good feedback as well for the course.
Yeah. And then another kind of standout feature that we were seeing all over social media was the big 360-degree kind of Mando thing there. You want to talk a little bit
Yeah,
about that?
yeah. So that Mando was like just a structure that they had in the course, and that was actually one of the pieces of feedback that I had for them, and like honestly, even tried to get them to change mid tournament. Was the fact that it was just a little bit too far away from the tee to like realistically hit. And actually, I'm pretty sure we are the only team to make the Mando in the competition.
Nice.
So Sophia over there, or this way on my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, she threw it. We needed another point against Norway to push our match further, and she picked up her J and just threw like the purest shot through the Mando, and gave me a putt that I was able to make to get a stroke up on that team. So like that was super super sick to be able to like actually go there and be the only team to throw through the Mando.
Yeah.
But I think like yeah, I wish they changed the whole rules a little bit. Maybe made everything short of the Mando OB, so you force teams to all go for it, because it was kind of like the spectator hole on the course, and 90% of the teams were laying up short and then pitching through.
Right.
Yeah, that's good feedback, because you want to see people go for it. You don't want to see layups. When you put a feature as cool as that on the course, you want it to be part of it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
what we could see is, so anybody who didn't know, it was a doubles event, right? And it's an alternate shot doubles event. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we start, we'll go a little bit in the tournament, nothing too crazy, but we got Canada started out in Pool B, and you guys played against Lithuania, Australia, and Norway. You got the wins against Lithuania and Australia, and then you tied with Norway. But Sophia, I wanted to ask was, when you got the win against Australia, after just being down at Whiff Diff for the team event, was it a couple of the same players you might have played with, and how did it feel kind of getting some retribution or some against them?
Like we did make some mistakes, but I think their FPO player, she was injured last year. So it wasn't actually the exact same team that we faced off. And in Australia, there was like several matches happening at once. Like the teams for all the countries were bigger, and there was best shot and all shot and singles. So it was like it wasn't quite the same, and we didn't have like Aussie Aussie oi Aussie 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 oi 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 in the background of every shot. So that was kind of nice. We only had one of them, and I like someone yelled it over the fence or something at one point. I was like, no, not again. I had a little flashback. Um, but no, it was sort of like in the back of my head when we were down. I was like, this can't happen again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that one of those things, like, you think of Happy Gilmore and there's that guy in the background making all the comments? Is that Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi for both of you? Is
If
that
you're
gonna
playing bad, for
forever?
sure. Like it's all like great and great spirit, and like I'd like want them to do it. But if you're like not quite playing good, and like you feel like you should be like winning the match, and like that's happening for the other team, like every time they do like anything that's not like totally bad, um it does wear down on you, and like you have to like kind of like stay focused and like not think about other things except for your next throw. So but no, I mean, I love playing against Australia, and it was fun last year too. But it was, yeah, like it was an exciting match for this year as well. So they put up a good little fight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, we thought that as soon as we saw that Canada and Australia was in the same pool. You've got two countries that really are very similar in a lot of things, whether, for so much historical reasons and everything else. And just having been there in Australia and playing with them, we thought that would be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then so Canada's performance in that round robin was good enough to get us. You were able to get to the quarterfinals, and you went up against Latvia. And a lot of the stuff we didn't get to see a lot of coverage. So Thomas, can you tell us a little bit about how that round went and what Latvia was like as opponents?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew that they could be sneaky good. I mean, their FPO player, she's an up and comer on the tour. She's been playing a lot of tour events out in Europe. I think she's only like in the 920s right now, but she's been playing like 960, 970 almost average on the events out in Europe the last like couple weeks. So we knew that they had like a strong powerhouse of a team that like could play really well. Same with the guy Rainers. He's a great player. I played one round with him at the World Championships, and like he has all the power and all the skill that you need to be able to play well. So like it really came down to that, and like also they just had like the hottest start I think I've seen any team the entire week.
Wow.
I think they birdied 6 of the first 7 holes, and the only hole that they missed was 16, the one that they lay up short and then pitch through the Mando.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, yeah, going against that, like playing to your game plan perfectly the first 7 holes in a row.
Yeah.
And I think we got 4 of them, but that still puts us 3 back. And
Yeah.
then it's like an uphill battle from there. I think we like clawed our way to 1 back at some point, but then
Mhm.
yeah, eventually just kind of like ran out of holes to make moves, and they were able to get the win on us. But I mean, at least it in the long end, like they played extremely well, and they actually ended up beating out Estonia for the bronze medal. So like it shows that their team was like sneaky good.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Well, and then that loss there kind of took us out of the medal competition part, but there was still a lot more disc golf to be played. And Daryl, wouldn't you know it, Canada was up against Annika Steen, and as I hopefully say it right, you guys love it when I make my
Well,
pronunciations.
it's Annika Sten,
Annika Sten and
but
Oyvind Jarns. Is that
Annika
right?
Sten and
Even yeah,
Oyvind.
even
Yeah.
Yeah, but of Norway, and again, but this time
again.
Norway took the win. So, what were your thoughts
Yeah.
on that one, Sophia?
I mean, we faced them a lot last year in Australia too, and we also I think then we might have also had like a draw, a win, and a loss, or like at least one of each. Like I know when I'm facing Anakin in Norway, like it's gonna be a good tough battle, and I think we just used up our wins like a little early. I think we played so well on day one, and day two we were playing pretty good, but like we were like we had some mistakes, or we'd play a hole well, but we'd maybe just missed the birdie because like the drive wasn't quite close enough, or the putt was just a little bit outside of range or whatever. So we were like slightly off enough where like it would cost us like a couple points here and there. So yeah, in our match against Norway, we were pretty like bummed. We realized that the loss to Latvia took us out of the medal match. So I think we just sort of like had a little bit of like we weren't
A
quite
slump afternoon.
fighting as hard as we could have been in that
Yeah.
match. Just we were trying to get into the medal match, and that was like really like our hearts were really set on that. So
Hmm.
it took the wind out of our sails a bit, but I think like we by the end of the match we were battling. I made the Mando on that match because we had
Yep.
to, and like I think we birdied the last 3 or 2 holes out of 3, or like we by the end of the match we like started turning it on, but like we were just like we came into the match like we were still trying to like pick ourselves back up after our unexpected loss in the morning, where we just
Right.
felt like, whoa, what just happened? Like they played so well, and like we just didn't keep up, and we needed to, and we didn't. So that was like, um, I like it was what it was. So it was like we were playing for um like a match for fifth place. Like if we'd won,
Mm-hmm.
we would have been able to play on the finals, like to get fifth.
Yeah.
So we took the loss there. So we got the seventh, eighth match up against Great Britain. It was a great match against Norway, though, and I think they played pretty well in that match as well. So it's always fun to play them. I don't have it in the room, but I have a Norway hat. I was like,
Oh.
I want your hat, and they were like, okay.
Yeah.
I've been wearing it ever since. I love playing them. It's always great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then you mentioned it. Then that left you with that one last round to go, and that was against Rachel Turton and Ben Holden. See, why can't everyone have?
You're really good at this.
Yeah, exactly. I got those names down good.
Yeah.
Against from Great Britain. How did that match go, Thomas?
It looked like it might have been a long one, was it?
Yeah, went to
Oh
some
man,
extra holes at the end of it. So we again kind of had like a slow start to our round, like kind of made a couple of like weird mistakes in the first couple holes.
I'm gonna
Uh,
interrupt you, Thomas, because we
yeah,
had a slow start because it was pissing rain.
Oh yeah,
we were gonna get to that. Yeah.
Like if we warm up, we're gonna be soaked.
yeah, that's true.
So we didn't warm up as much as we could have because like the putting station was we've been outside and it was really rainy and wet. Anyways,
Right.
carry
Yeah. But yeah, so once like we played I think the entire front nine in basically that pissing rain, and it was pretty miserable. Like I know,
no caddies.
like we were trying to manage umbrellas and like rain ponchos and towels and all this stuff, and like neither of us brought a caddy for the event, so we were all just lugging and fumbling around the course for like at least the first 5 or 6 holes, and then
Yeah, I was trying to wear a poncho, and eventually, seeing me get to my lie with the poncho on stressed Thomas out so much he like took it away from me and like put it in my bag. You don't need that.
yeah, so I took the poncho away from Sophia. I was like, "You're just getting your discs more wet fumbling the poncho than you are drying yourself." And so, yeah, we eventually like did find our groove a little bit more. We like tied up the match again somewhere in the middle of the round, and then um, we actually had to birdie a couple of the last few holes, and we actually got up one, but then they like made a bullseye birdie on 18 to then tie up the matchup after the whole 18 holes, and went into a playoff where we pushed the first hole, pushed the second hole with birdies, and then yeah, we were able to strategically place ourselves on the drives, so we were able to take like a pretty easy dub on the third hole and secure that last win for our tournament.
Yeah. And then, what we had a question in the chat as well, and you brought it up a little bit earlier about that piston rain. The question in the chat was, that putt from Thomas you made from the pond. Did you leave your shoes on or did you take them off? Because go back. I don't know if it's still available on your social media, but you were pretty much knee deep, if not higher than that, in the water. And Sophia's fumbling around with the poncho, and you're just like, just get in there.
Because like I would have taken my shoes and socks off and gone in the water barefoot, but they actually updated the dress code, I guess, this year, because it used to say foot coverings needed to be worn. So like you could go in with your socks and then like just take off your wet socks and wear your dry shoes the rest of the round. But now it says shoes or like something with insoles. Yeah, foot covers with insoles. And so I was like, all right, these shoes are getting trashed because I have to get in this water and I have to make this putt. So I went in there, and it was still like not the easiest putt ever. It was very happy to sacrifice the shoes and make the putt for the team.
Yeah. It was an awesome one. I'm glad that you had that caught on video too, because that was such a good putt. And you, like you said, were you up to your knees? Was it that deep? Because it looked like it was, and you're a tall person too. So
yeah, it was probably at least 2 feet deep of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so with that win, that kind of finished up the tournament. You finished up 7th, and we're totally proud of you. The both of you did such a great job at the tournament. And then the question, get the clapping going for sure.
There you go.
So I guess what we want to know too, kind of as we kind of wrap this up. So World Games is done. The opening ceremonies was great. It was such a big event. Is there any kind of one big memory or something like a one big culture shock or something that you're going to take with you that you'll always remember from that trip to China?
Ooh.
I think you stumped them.
Yeah, well, I know sometimes they're a little from the side.
Like so many,
The thing that sticks out the most to me isn't like necessarily have to do with the place or the course itself. I think it's more the experience of the competition, like being there and being done so professionally. And I think it honestly, like the Chinese do it better than I would say 99% of the countries, is like the professionalism. Like we had 250 volunteers for a 32-person disc golf tournament.
Wow.
That's
insane.
Yeah.
Like the every single step was thought out. Every single thing was run like as professionally as it could. The volunteers were all amazing. Like the staff were there like to get any tiny need that needed to happen for the course. Every single entrance of the park, the hotel, the different things were all like managed by the security tag that you wore at all time, and like just that professionalism of an event, like I could never imagine being part of something like that. And so like that's the thing that's going to always last in my head. Of that's something I'll hold on to for the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess Thomas, it's probably fair to say with that is that gave you an idea of where disc golf could truly be, and if we could see it at that level at all times, where our sport, like it's not that we're not even close to the ceiling of where we could be in disc golf yet.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, but yeah, I think it's very true.
Yeah.
How about you, Sophia?
I mean, exactly what Thomas said, just experiencing disc golf in that kind of pandas, yeah.
Yeah.
Experiencing disc golf in that kind of atmosphere and like in the context of just world sports in general and on that international stage, it's just a different flavor of the sport. And for like a payout, you're playing like for your country. It just feels a little bit different. So that whole experience is gonna stick with me for sure. I think like a moment was there's like a kind of a top of the world shot where you just like you're throwing to like the basket, which is on a little hillside away. I think there's some videos that we posted on socials of us throwing off
Mm-hmm.
the tee there. It's just like a short par three, but like in the background is the biggest building in the world. And it's like a kilometer long. It's like a mall. And there's like 50 stories, but it's all the stories are just giant. And we ended up actually visiting it during the practice week and like maybe saw 2% of it after walking for like 2 hours. But it's just like, it was just surreal to be playing like a pro level disc golf course with like skyrise buildings surrounding you,
Mm-hmm.
and like you're in the middle of a park, but like instead of like a mountain range or something, it's like giant buildings, and like including the biggest building in the world.
Yeah.
That was sort of for me like a visual like thing that's always gonna sort of stick in my head, and like I don't think there's really gonna be any kind of disc golf experience like that ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter where they hold the world games, it will not be anything to be close to exactly the same as this experience. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
mean, maybe they'll do like New York Grand Central Park disc golf course, temp course, or something. But at least so far, I don't think there's ever been anything quite like it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all of that experience with us. And we can see, Sophia, you have a bit of a break from playing right now. You've got the Great Lakes Open coming up, unless you jump in something in between. And then Thomas, you're
Um,
right. Or sorry, go ahead.
oh no, yeah, I'm just saying I've taken a couple weeks at home to like sort of reset, rebuild, and then yeah, I'll be going to Deglow and traveling with Thomas actually for that stretch. So
Awesome. Yeah. Whereas Thomas doesn't seem to like to take breaks.
Yeah.
You're just right into the next Canadian A tier up at Eastern Canadian Amateur Nationals this weekend. Eddyville Superspin, it looks like it's going to be interesting that John has put together an extended 72 par layout that you're going to play at least one of the days.
Yeah, it's an interesting course. I played it today, and I'll say like some of the course, like 2/3 of the course, is like really cool. The way that he's like laid out all the holes and combined like this super layout of the 218s. But like there's a couple of holes that are like, holy, this is like just long to be long. And I mean that's good for me, like, but I feel like I look at some of the players like that are going to be playing this event, some of the divisions, and wow, it's long.
Yeah.
Like so, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a grueling event. Like just, especially I think like the last couple of holes are like in that big open area, kind of by the road.
Okay.
And usually there's I think like 7 or 8 holes all in that area, and I think there's now only 4 holes in that area.
Right.
And so like, yeah, it's extra long, like par fours, par fives, in that area, and it's just, yeah, it's like I think I'm pretty much throwing my Boston Destroyer off of like all those holes.
Yeah. You know, a course is long when Thomas says it's going to be long.
Yeah, if Thomas is throwing his yellow boss, you know he's going to park it.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's good. Well, we have our fantasy picks show later on tonight, Thomas, so we appreciate the little extra tips there, so that'll help Daryl and I. We think you might be going pretty high, you and Marty up there, so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys joining us. We're going to see you at Nationals. We're excited to do that. It's really just a month away or a little bit less at this point.
Yeah.
And it's up to you too. We want to give you some time if you want to shout out your sponsors. If not, we can let you go, and we have your sponsors listed here and can do it for you. So your choice.
Huge shout out, good in the whites. Although mine were dirty by the time the event started, but they worked out great in the rain. But we're fighting over a disc, so I don't think people that don't play disc golf knows what we're doing, but for disc golf, it's great.
That is awesome.
And Thomas?
Yeah, to shout out, like Sophia was saying, these shirts are going to be available at Nationals. Yeah, big shout out to ThoughtSpace for sponsoring me and continuing to support my journey playing disc golf, as well to just all the fans and friends that like support continuously. Like, I mean, these shirts and all the other merchandise that I sell throughout the year, that's like pretty much what keeps me doing it and traveling and able to attend like all these amazing events that I get to travel to each year. So big shout out to everybody who's like a supporter of us and of me. So it really makes the biggest difference in the sport. So really appreciative.
For sure.
There you go. Well, yeah, I had fear of missing out, so I had to go and get changed. So
nice.
I had to join you.
Well, Thomas, the other one that I saw when I was on your link tree is, of course, we know you've got a goat towel as well. And yes. I don't know if it's still out and available. It looked like it might be, but there's a really cool disc golf pin that you have as well that's out there. I don't know. Have you ever seen it, Sophia?
Yeah.
You didn't give me a pin.
I haven't had it for like, I think 2 years at least, the last time that they ran it and like sent me some. I don't know if they're still available online. Actually, we should probably reach out and like collab and do another pin, because that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, they look so cool, and I always like it when you see somebody's bag and they're just covered in pins and badges and stuff, and because you could do a lot of cool designs. But yeah, you guys have so many great sponsors, and there's so many ways to support the two of you, and you represent Canada so well. So I think everybody listening should get out there and help. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's pointing at all the discs we got back there.
There's the J. The J is there.
Yoo-hoo. No. I lost so many eagles over the last few weeks. I gotta find some more to beat in.
There you go.
I know a place you can get them. Innovadisc.com.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
I'm
sure you've got the direct line. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great time before Nationals, and we'll see you out there.
All right,
thanks, guys.
Good. Yeah, perfect. Thanks. We appreciate you coming on.
Too many times where we have two guests on at the same time.
Right.
But it can work really well, especially when you've got two great people like Sophia and Thomas.
They've been on so many times. They know what we're like, and we know them.
Yeah, and they still put up with us, and they still come back.
Exactly. Oh, look at that. We still got the Cardinal chain out thing up there.
Right.
Give me a second.
And you'll move that off.
And there you go.
And I think, do we have our other guest ready to go?
We're ready to go on that one, Jeremy. Let's
Perfect.
go.
Well, why don't we move on? So tonight's main event here for our interview that we do.
Yeah.
Our guest joins us.
Yeah, that wasn't the main interview.
You would think that would feel like it. That was actually just two main interviews.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Two main interviews.
So tonight's guest joins us from Selwyn, Ontario. Now, Daryl and our listeners, you may be asking yourself, there's a few people it could be. It could be Sebastian Bach, lead singer of Skid Row. Or maybe Ronnie the Hawk Hawkins, the country musician, as they're both from the Selwyn area.
Must be one of those two.
You'd be wrong.
Okay.
What if I said that tonight's guest played for the Toronto Argonauts and is a Grey Cup champion? Still not sure?
Yeah.
Well, you should be sure. I announced it earlier, but okay. What if I said he has a disc golf course, and not any disc golf course, but one of the best ones in Canada, Project 15? Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
We got Gabe Robinson on the show.
Good evening, Gabe. How you doing?
Good evening, gentlemen. I hope our connection's a whole lot better.
It definitely seems better so far. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it lasts more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, it should be good. I'm actually in Toronto right now on hotel Wi-Fi, so they assured me it'd be good. Let's hope. Nice to be back on the show, guys.
Yeah,
perfect. It's great to have you.
Don't tell us you didn't drive all the way from Selwyn down to Toronto just to be on the podcast, did you?
Yes, that's why I knew I was the main interview, so I had to go somewhere where I knew it'd have good internet connection. No, I'm actually coaching at York University this week, so they're putting me up in a hotel, and I snuck away from a meeting so that I could talk to you guys because I knew I was the main interview, according to you.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's it. In the main interview, when Thomas and Sophia are on, is pretty high standing.
Yeah, Thomas is the opening act, and now we got the main headliner. That's what it's all about.
So
that's a little ridiculous. Those guys are the important ones.
Well, Gabe, we know you've been watching the podcast and commenting and supporting for quite a while, and we've been wanting to have you on the show for about just as long as you've been supporting us. So, as you said, we tried it one other time, and some people saw a little bit of it, but we didn't get it all the way through. But we're glad that you were able to make it happen tonight. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So starting with that intro there, we talked about...
to be here, and you're right. Before you get too far, really, I think you guys are doing something really fun. And the first time I saw your stuff, I was really impressed. And it keeps getting better week after week. And I've been mostly offline this summer, but I keep tuning in. And there's a buzz. You know, the disc golf world in Canada is not it's not a powerhouse. There's a lot of people, but everybody seems to know each other. And when you talk about the local disc golf media, you guys always come up. So glad to be here. It's pretty cool for me.
Thank you. We appreciate that. That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome. We never know. We know we enjoy what we're doing, and we hope we're reaching people. It's always nice to hear that is happening. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Well, Gabe, we talked about Sebastian Bach. We talked about Ronnie the Hawk Hawkins, and they're from the Selwyn area. I got that information from Wikipedia, so I hope it's correct. Is that right as far as you know? Are those guys from that area?
Yeah, actually, and I grew up in Peterborough, which is just south of where I live. I'm about a half an hour north of Peterborough, and Sebastian Bach is a high school buddy of mine's older brother. His younger brother, my friend, his name is Zach Burke. He was a famous hockey player, played for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Awesome guy. I haven't talked to him in too many years, but had also a famous sister, and his father was David Burke, a professional artist who I got to work with it on a co-op when I was in the end of high school. So, yes, the Burke family, the family of Sebastian Bach. He changed his name a little bit, sort of a stage name. They are certainly Peterborough people. Ronnie the Hawk Hawkins is, of course, one of these famous Peterborough names. I don't actually know specifically where he's from, but anybody from the Kawartha region will claim him as one of our own. That's for sure.
For sure. Well, now they're exciting people, and as exciting as they may be, we really want to know more about you, Gabe. And we know because you're a fan of the podcast, as we said, you're familiar with our unique movie-inspired origin stories. And this one tonight's going to be a little bit different. And I know you had one before, but I've mixed it up. Hopefully, this is a good one, so get ready for it. It's a longer one. Are you ready?
I can't wait.
All right. So maybe growing up, you were a natural athlete and could play any sport you wanted. You ended up playing football and even won it all. At the top of your game, you heard a new calling. That calling was disc golf, and not just disc golf, but epic, game-changing course design and tournament directing as well. Many thought your course was perfect, the best in the world, the best in the land even. But players really remember you for the speech you gave right before they started their final round on Sunday at the P15 Open. I have a little excerpt of it, so I'm going to give that to you now. You know, disc golf is a game of centimeters. The difference between a birdie and a bogey, it's a centimeter. 1 centimeter too high, you hit the band. 1 centimeter too low, you hit the cage 1 centimeter left or right, and well, you chain out. The centimeters we need are all around us on every fairway, every green, and every round, and in every throw. Now, I can't make you throw straight, and I can't make you pure that gap, but I'll tell you this. When you step up to that tee, you gotta want it, and if you do, those centimeters will add up, and that's what will make the difference between standing on that podium or being on that chase card. Now, maybe that isn't quite how you got into disc golf, so why don't you tell us how it really happened?
That's brilliant, and they get better every time. By the way, I think it's great. My origin story is actually a bit of a strange one. I know that most people who might get into disc golf course design or course work probably started out as enthusiastic, skilled, and probably experienced players. I took a strange route to it. I had played a little bit. I was interested in the game. I came from the world of ultimate frisbee, which sort of filled a hole in my life when football ended. And for me, disc golf was something that I was potentially interested in, and in that I owned some land and some very interesting land, in my opinion. Land I knew very well by that point. I thought originally I would just put in a few baskets and along the way build, 3 holes that kind of did a small loop. And, I didn't know a lot about the game at the time. So I was sort of imagining I'd just have several 100, 200-foot holes and I'd get the feel of it. So I was kind of excited to get started with that. I asked around about, get some input from other people. And very quickly, I got quite enthusiastic about the actual process of designing and building a whole. I mean, you're building this kind of puzzle or this, lots of ways to think about it. I don't know how sort of philosophical you wish for me to get, but it's a path where you start at one end and you go to the other, and along the way you are throwing an object and you're keeping track of your strokes and so on. I don't need to explain the game to you, but for some reason, especially for me coming from a world of rather intense sports, and also I did play traditional golf, not well by any means, but I had been playing for some time. So it all sort of made sense, and I liked the scale. It was smaller, something I could fiddle around with. Again, connected with some other people, it made sense. It seemed to sort of, after some conversation and after some sort of digging in the dirt and thinking through, I thought, well, it wouldn't be that hard to make 9 holes instead of 3 holes. And then that sort of morphed into 18 holes, and with some input again from some other people who were generous enough and hardworking enough to help, I ended up connected with a number of people in the Peterborough disc golf community. And it sounded like what the community needed, so to speak, meaning what there was a want for in the region was a more substantial course. At the time, to my knowledge, there were only a couple of courses around. Vimead was one of them. The course at the zoo was another. And there wasn't anything substantial. And I have to admit, there's a little bit of an ego trip here in my mind. The thought was, hey, I could build something really big and really interesting and challenging. I don't want The world doesn't need another short course. I think it'd be fun to build a big course, and I think this is one of the most important parts of the story. I assumed this would be a project that I sort of chipped away at for X number of years. I figured it'd take me something like 4 years to slowly put a course together. And I know I've told the story many times, but I still think it's kind of a fun piece of the project, and this is a piece of why the name came to be. Uh, the provincials tournament, and I think it was 2017, they'd lost the course. They set up to do it, they'd lost the course, and some of the people involved there had come to me and said, "Do you think your course could be ready?" And I said, "No, but if I got a whole bunch of help, perhaps." And honestly, I had no idea what I was talking about. Nobody really did. Um, but I did commit to trying to get open. Although only I think we had 16 holes open. You need 15 to be a properly rated course for such an event. Again, not that I knew anything about any of this stuff. So sometime right around the point where we go from 2016 to 2017, I'd committed to building 18 holes. Not too much longer later, I'd agreed to co-host this provincial tournament. I think Viamead and the Zoo were the other courses. And that must have been, I think it was in July. So, 5 months later, despite the course, in my opinion, not being anywhere near where it needed to be, where it is today, where it should have been. It was just this very narrow, scratched out of the woods course. It sort of showed what it could be. And the real bonus, despite all that pressure to get ready in the first 6 months, is that when everybody went home after that first provincials tournament, I actually had a course. I had baskets in the ground, and it was playable, and there were tee pads, and I mean, it was a long, long way from what I have now. And whenever I can, I'd like to thank the people who are involved. Most of them know who they are, but I did get a lot of help from a few individuals early on, and then a little help from a bunch of people, if you follow.
Yeah.
And so that was really necessary to get there, but really it was, a whole lot of that work was me, and I really enjoyed it. It's sort of like, this is another joke, but it's kind of like power gardening. You're out there doing clearing and cleaning and making these enormous trails that you play in. These are gardens that we get to play in. And I really loved it. And I have a little bit of an obsessive element to my personality. I think everybody does in some ways. But all this to say, to bring it back to your question, I wasn't a disc golfer in the beginning. Like, meaningfully, I really wasn't a disc golfer. And if I'm honest, I'm not really a disc golfer today. My hobby is the course. I get to play a bit. I don't get to play as much as I'd like to. I have a lot of other things going on in my life. But if you ask me what I love about the game, it's really the course. And thankfully, once in a while, I get to go out with people I really like and throw discs and have some fun. But again, for me, the hobby, the passion is the course. And thankfully, I get to throw some discs sometimes, and I certainly love that too. So there's my sort of ranging origin story.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And one thing you said there in the beginning, when it just started off as 3 holes, and then what it's become and what it's going to be in the next month, and where you're working towards, it kind of got me thinking about, Jeremy and I have had a discussion before about setting goals and what we want, where we want to be, and what we're always achieving. And I'm not so much of a goal setter, Jeremy is, but I know back in the day, I was training for a triathlon quite a few years ago, and somebody said, "What is your short-term goal? What's your mid-term goal? And what's your goal that if you had to just put one out there in the middle of nowhere, like the final achievement, what would that goal be?" When you were setting up that 3-hole course, was there ever a point in your mind where you're like, "Okay, I'm doing 3 holes now, but wouldn't it be fantastic if I could have Canadian nationals at this course in the future?" Like, was that ever a distant, far off reality that was ever going to happen?
No, and I didn't. I had no idea about the landscape of disc golf in Canada, let alone the world at the time. I don't remember this clearly, but I'm sure when someone came along and said, we're thinking about asking you about, hosting provincials. I didn't know there was provincials at the time. I suspect that was the
Right.
case.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew people from around, a lot of people from the ultimate world sort of shifted slowly into disc golf. So I had a little bit of a sense of the community, and there's lots of wonderful people, certainly around Peterborough. And now I know people from Toronto, and thankfully now people all over Canada. But I really didn't know. And to your question about goals, I imagined these 3 holes. I designed them. I designed them with a pretty good spatial sense of the landscape. Disc
Right.
golf course/hole design, this is not a deep thought, but it really it starts with the land. The decisions you get to make with the land are the fun part, but without interesting land, you don't have a interesting course.
Yeah.
So the game of playing around with this sort of patch of land wherein I might put three holes. To me, that was the whole thing. And then it started. I mean, it's like, well, if you're going to get to 3 short holes, getting to 9 is not that far. I didn't then say, you know what, my goal will be to go to 9 and then to 18 and then host nationals. I honestly had no idea what I was getting into.
Right.
And I think if I really did know how much work it would be, I'd have done the smart thing, which is to not do it at all. Um, and this is not to show any regret. I don't
Right.
regret it. It's been wonderful. But if I knew what I was actually undertaking. I'm certain I would have said that's an insane amount of work, responsibility, all these strangers around. I don't know any of these people. I would have not agreed to this if I had presented this idea to myself. That again is not to say I regret it whatsoever. But I just didn't know what I was into. And so therefore I could not have possibly set any of these goals or seen on the horizon something as cool as hosting nationals.
Yeah. Well, and I think and you've probably got it right there, is sometimes, you set some goals, other times you kind of just see where it goes, and you just keep your mind open and open to those opportunities, and you're not slamming doors when people open them. You take a look and explore through. And I'm glad that you have, because now this course is one that gets talked about all the time. It's one of the best in Canada. And one of the things that does make it really good, Gabe, too, that people may not really know because they'll think about Ontario, but where you're situated in Ontario, the landscape starts to change. So can you tell us like a little bit about what's different about your property compared to, say, even an hour south from where you are?
I'd love to, because I'm a little bit of a very amateur level geology nerd. I just think it's quite interesting to think about deep time and the land on which we live. So of course there was a major glaciation something like 10 to 20,000 years ago, and that shaped this piece of Ontario significantly. And the glaciers ground a vast amount of the dirt off of the exposed Canadian Shield, which is just like a kilometer or two north of my property. This is areas like Buckhorn and Burley Falls and Fenelon Falls and everything north, all the way Sudbury, all the way up to James Bay, Hudson Bay, all the like most of Canada is this exposed Canadian Shield, which is the basement rock that underlies all of these continents. It's kind of unusual for this to be exposed. The glaciers scraped a whole lot of the soil and the sedimentary rock that had built up on top of it and washed it out to sea. And a lot of this gravel was deposited to the south of me, and produced some very fertile land, and these eskers and the Oak Ridges moraine and all of these other glacial features, which are essentially piles of sand and gravel. Um, and I live, and this is the kind of the cool thing, and this course exists more or less right on the margin of these two massive features. So to the south of me is this sandy, the beginning of the glacial till, all of this sand and gravel that was sort of rinsed out beneath the glaciers, deposited by the glaciers. And just to the north of me is this bare rock. So my land is mostly, it's not bare rock, though. If you went down only a little ways, you'd come to the bare rock. It's mostly the very edge of all this till and this sand and this gravel and these bits of limestone and all these erratics and bits of not marble, pardon me, but granite from the shield that got sort of washed down, cleaned out, sorted, and then piled up. So my best guess at this point is that the hump of land that a lot of the course runs through and the pit comes through, and you guys will get a sense of this when you get to play it. There's a big gravel pit where they had pulled a bunch of aggregate out of, and it's a pretty substantial feature on the course. That lump of sand is essentially kind of a sandbar that would have been subglacial. I think you would call it semi-riverine, meaning this water flow coming out from underneath the glacier kind of sorted it and cleaned out a lot of the big rock, left a lot of the small rock behind. So I don't want to go on and on about it, even though I could, because I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm right on the edge, and it's a wonderful question. And the Kawartha Lakes that sort of zigzag from all the way up in Georgian Bay, more or less, all the way down to Belleville. This is the Trent Severn Run. Uh, those lakes are right on the margin of where the shield dips underneath all the sedimentary rocks, and the glaciers sort of scoured out these lakes, and left them behind. And only a kilometer or so, less than that in certain places, is Lower Buckhorn Lake to the north. And that's one of these lake chains. And again, I'm just on the very bottom of that, which it's a pretty neat part of the world. And I think more relevant to our conversation, it turns out to be one of the sort of three main features that this course rolls through, the other being sort of rolling field, and the third being lovely old hardwood forests.
Oh,
right.
Man, you're educating us at the same time, and I don't know about the listeners, Gabe, but I know you and we could just sit at Project 15, and you could tell me that for another 30 minutes, and I'd be happy to hear all about it. So, thank you for sharing that part. Now, it kind of leads me to a question about that. With these cool features that allow you to have a course that's a little bit different and something that people wouldn't have seen before, whether it's the rock walls that you have or the exposed rock and the, like you said, the sand pit and all of these things that we're going to get a chance to experience.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, and this is just going back to the rocks for a minute, only for a minute.
Yeah.
Has there been anything as you've been building the course in that where you've come up with some really rare or exciting, different types of, like whether even, you could say, oh, did you come up with some gold at any point or that, but have you come up with some really unique things that were left over in the land?
I can think of a few things. Hopefully, they measure up to your notion of really unique. One is there's a couple of big chunks of white quartz that have been sort of tumbled into small boulders, and they're just solid, sort of white, fairly translucent chunks of crystal, like it's crystalline rock, right? Crystalline rock structure. So that stuff's cool. There's all this broken limestone, these sort of sheets. It's called it's basic. I think it's let me see if I have the 400 million year old um, sedimentary rock, this limestone that lays right on top of the shield rock and is crumbling and being sort of eroded and washed south. So there's sections where that sort of breaks up and comes to the surface and is quite pretty. And the other thing I think is quite neat is that sometime around, my best guess is, late 1800s, when this particular part of Ontario was being aggressively colonized by Europeans, they chopped up a lot of this area into these 100-acre parcels with the most crude surveying tools, and these margins, these borders are still being contested today because some English guy just burned a tree on the corner of a lot and said it's a mile deep and X feet across. And now with satellite surveying, they're not always accurate. But somebody came in here during this logging boom in Ontario a long time ago, cut all the trees down, built split rail fences, some of which still survive. My hunch is they put cattle on the land. The cattle turned the sandy, terrible soil into mud in 1 year, and that was the end of it being useful pasture. I expect it was covered with tree before, and once you take that out and the cows come through, you've got more or less dead soil. It's still beautiful wildflowers and lots of grass and so forth, but it was no longer forest. And what you can find are some of these old, pioneer piled, settler piled stone fences. There's so much rock in this dirt that people just piled stones. And I think the main point of it was trying to just turn the pasture into, viable grazing land. But they were also building fences to contain animals. So there are several holes, including the first hole, the fifth hole, the last hole, that have these exposed piles of rocks. And yes, I've cleaned them up and I've pushed a lot of the dirt out of them, and I've tried to make them, pump them up so they're pretty and they're obvious, because they're really fun features. Second hole as well, and a few other spots. So this, you have a number of histories happening on the course. If you're interested, this, behind the disc golf stuff, there's this sort of deep history, this geological history. There's this colonial history, this history of Canada stuff, this European colonial history. Surely this was land that Indigenous peoples at least hunted on, if not lived on. There's not much reason to think people actually lived on this land, but they may well have. There's no record. There's no, a lot of those particular people didn't leave a lot of traces behind. Most of their tools were stone or wood, leather, and so forth. So isn't a lot of traces, and these would have been people living around rivers and lakes, not well off of rivers and lakes. So I just don't have reason to believe people actually lived on my land, even though it's kind of their land. So yeah, again, these sort of layers of history, and then at some point somebody came in and pulled a whole lot of gravel out of this small deposit. There's gravel pits all over the region. much bigger ones than mine, and they built roads and made concrete and other stuff. So if you're interested in this stuff, there's these sort of layers of time represented by the course and the land, which I think is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think you're missing you're missing out on a gold mine. What I envision in my head is when you pull up to the course, you pay your $5 extra, and you get a little a tape player and some earbuds, and as you're walking around, it can be like on the right hand side. You now see, you got this walking discovery as you go through the course. I think it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Getting back to the course. So we had a chance to watch some of the coverage of the previous P15 Opens that have been out there, and then just recently you released the fantastic walkthrough with yourself and Jake Voskamp as well. That just came out. It looks like such an amazing course as you're describing it there, and we can't wait to get out there and play it. One of the holes that sticks out in my mind is, and you'll be able to name it right away, and I know they have names. Is the one with the branch that comes across the fairway? Is that would you class that as like one of your signature holes? I mean, I'm sure that you could cast any one of the holes as a signature hole, but that one kind of sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's for a lot of people who appreciate the beauty of the course. That one is important, and along with some of the what do you call them? The sort of fun you have with things like the gimmicks, like a hanging basket and so forth. Gimmicks doesn't make it stupid. I just mean it's a gimmick because it's not a critical feature. It's just a fun feature. But that hole is the fourth hole. It's a rather short. It would be that's great, man. It's a rather short par three, and somehow by mostly dumb luck, this long red oak tree has a branch that seems to divide the upper space from the lower space, and it's just amazing how many people actually hit that branch, myself included, if not the actual trunk of the main tree if you pull it a little bit. It just it's a really interesting thing, and it tells you some things about what a roughly 200-foot shot does. Like, if you're above that, you're going to have to stall and turn or fade, and if you're below, you're really going to have to push it flat for a long ways. It's only 180 feet or something, but somehow having this line in the middle as a design feature, even if I can't take a lot of credit for having built the tree, it's a kind of a fascinating element about how the game works. And it's just slightly uphill, and you get to this. There's a bit of a, I don't know, a skirt or an apron at the front that will catch a lot of discs if they're coming into the ground. And then beyond that, I have a very mildly elevated basket. So the basket sort of stands out in the middle. And I don't know if now's the time, but I have a couple of sort of basic theories with when it comes to disc golf course design. And then right now we're talking about disc golf hole design, which is included but separate. And one of those pieces for me is that if to get the best disc golf hole possible, you've got to make it beautiful. You've got to make it look interesting, along with the other side of it, which is to do with the actual game itself. I remember saying this on in some discussion with somebody, and at the time I was calling it puzzles and postcards, and the idea being sort of a fun alliteration, but puzzles being a discussion about when you stand on a tee, you're being presented with this puzzle that you have to accomplish in real time, throwing discs, which is not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of reasons why that's hard, and the discs process and fall off to one side depending which way they're spinning and so forth. And you've got to appeal to people with a lot of different skill levels. But you should have, from the puzzle point of view, standing on a tee, you should be able to say, I'm pretty sure that I have a couple of different interesting options off the tee. Like, this is a puzzle. This is a dynamic puzzle as a game, and you need to have options off the tee that interact with the notion that this is a puzzle. And the other side, the postcard piece, trying to keep this kind of brief before I bore you to tears, but the postcards element means that you have at least 18 opportunities to compose, in the sense that you have some power, some control over what you leave and what you remove, to kind of compose a beautiful scene. And if you do that well, and I don't think this is possible to do this perfectly, but the dream would be that every single tee you'd stand on, every single tee, and I've at the present, I have 35 tees, and each one of those would be worth taking a picture and sending it to your friends saying, look at this beautiful place. And not only is it a beautiful place with beautiful features, but I'm excited about, I stand here and I'm excited about the shots and the shot shapes and the option that I have. And, this gets us into some discussion about styles of design. And one of the main versions or distinctions in design, schools of thought, so to speak, is there are prescriptive holes which are rather limited with respect to what you're being asked to do. And there's nothing wrong with a prescriptive hole. Lots of great holes are prescriptive. It's say, this is the throw. You need to make this throw. And those are often narrow. A lot of shorter courses really have to lean into the prescriptive design thing. This is a hyzer, this is an anhyzer, this is a stall shot, this is whatever. And when you get into bigger courses or bigger holes, prescriptive golf is less ideal. So a lot of holes, I'm standing on the tee day after day, year after year, saying, okay, I like this idea. Are there other options? Are there other ways to excite a disc golfer? Are there other ways to say, if you have a good long, hyzer throw that, like most people do, right-handed, backhanded hyzer, are there other options that are going to be challenging and interesting? And then I'll leave it at that. But then there's a whole bunch of fun things that come with the question of where the disc is going to land and what you're trying to accomplish off the tee. So puzzles and postcards is the idea. Hole 4. Beautiful hole. I'm glad it stands out for you. A good buddy of mine keeps telling me he uses a picture from the tee as his phone wallpaper, which I think is kind of fun. And one last thing, as I go on and on, that thing that that you're just referring to, Jared Groenewegen, if I'm pronouncing his name properly, him and Jake and I did that little survey of the course, so to speak, that expose. And I think he did a really lovely job cutting together not just something that would be useful for people trying to come and play the course for the first time, like yourselves in a competition, but also getting a bit of the background and a bit of my own thoughts about it. So he did a lovely job of it.
Yeah,
no, absolutely.
We got that because it was as you said, is you being not necessarily the person who likes to play disc golf as much as you like designing the course. You gave like you're giving us a great deep kind of feeling of all of that, but you got to give a little snips and pieces of that during that video. And then Jake got to show us that everything, it's just a little 420 out there, just a little flip up every time. So, that's a Jake throw, maybe a Thomas throw, maybe not a Daryl and Jeremy throw, but no, it was fantastic to watch that. And what I'm really getting from you too, Gabe, is that I understand more and more as you're talking why your course is one of the best courses in Canada, is because I think you are looking at course design and building it. I know a lot of people design a lot of good courses, but I don't know if they're taking all of the same aspects into play as you are. And so what I would ask you, as you're working towards getting the course, and I know you said the 35 tee pads, but why don't we just focus on the 18 holes? As you start to kind of hone in on each one of those holes and get it to that point where you can say, I'm going to sign off and put my signature, Gabe Robinson, on this hole. This one's done for now. I'm happy with it. Let's move to the next one. How many of the 18 holes right now do you think you could put your signature on and you're happy with?
I mean, I'm really happy with all of them. They all have some great parts. And some of that is because they are in a great place and there were great trees there and there were great features there. And some of it is because a bunch of great decisions were made with respect to how to make it work. And some of that's aesthetic and some of that's about design and some of it's about disc golf throws and some of that's about appealing to different skill levels and so forth. Some of it's finding the right balance of difficulty and playability. Some of it's about narrowness versus wideness and so forth. I'm happy with all the holes. One thing that I find kind of interesting is for a long time it felt like there were a million things to do, a million ways to improve the course, and I took great delight in more or less tackling these challenges one at a time, and sometimes just make this a little better, make that a little wider. Sometimes it was, well, I'm landing in this spot frequently enough to know that, for a player of my very low caliber, if I'm always in trouble on this hole in that place. Maybe I need to think about the shape and the width and the difficulty of this hole for me right here. Well, from the start, for me, this course is supposed to have the idea was always that this would be for the best players. As my understanding of the best players, this would be, not trying to sound sort of, this is not hyperbole, but I was not trying to make, the Augusta, Georgia course for disc golf. Was trying to make whatever we mean when we say a championship course, a course that is worthy of competition with the best players. And just like traditional golf, there's a whole bunch of problems that come with that with respect to how far these guys. Sorry, I've been around football people. I'm struggling to not swear all the time right now. I'm doing pretty well so far.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we didn't talk about whether you wanted me to swear all the time or not, so I'm just gonna not. But it just keeps coming up.
Right
Anyway,
there.
Yeah. So these guys can throw so far. The women can throw so far, but really the men, in some ways, the way that the distance they can, you just had Thomas on, you've seen what Jake can do. These guys can break courses. And traditional golf went through the same thing in the 90s with a bunch of equipment upgrades. Balls got better, hollow head drivers, and then Tiger Woods came along, and you had all of these wonderful old courses that were beautiful places, wonderful to experience as a thing. You're walking along this wonderful place. It's human sized. Everything works. And now suddenly none of the bunkers are in the right place, because instead of it being set up for people who are being challenged to be precise at 260 yards, now you just hit over all of the bunkers, and none of those limitations make any sense anymore, right? If you hit 300, all the old courses stop mattering. So you make longer and longer tees, and there's other things you can do. And suddenly ball golf just got hard instead of fun. So all the same problems are present with disc golf course design when you're trying to include the best players. And I've been struggling with that for a while, and I've been trying to learn what the best players are capable of. And I've been trying to figure out how to make a course that is challenging for them, that still lets them use their long throws, but ideally includes enough risk if they want to throw long, to say to them there are other options available that are perhaps less long but more positionally advantageous, for example. So again, back to your question, I really am happy with all the holes, but I've passed the point where I felt like I've got to make all these changes to all these holes. Now what keeps coming up is, I keep saying this, and a few of my friends sort of look at me funny, and I go, well, it's very clear that 11 is the worst hole in the course. And they go, what are you talking about? 11 is a great hole. I go, well, maybe it is. But there are 17 holes that I think are better. So that means that I have to work on 11, and it's another tree, and it's two more trees, and it's clean up the other side, and let's move the tee pad a little bit to see if we can get the angle a little bit better, or push the basket in some direction. So again, I'm happy with the course. There's still probably is a million things that I could do to improve it. But I don't feel like there's a bunch of pressing things. I don't feel like there's any of these kind of sore spots that jump out and irritate me, or aren't attractive, or don't demand quality golf shots or good thinking. For the most part, the course fits together. And maybe, we'll go to your next question, but this whole thing, here's another of my little cheap theories. The design process is about balance and variety. And both of those things are very, very nebulous notions, even though when you hear that, you go, yeah, that makes sense. So what do you mean by balance? Well, there's 100 ways you can talk about balance: front nine, back nine balance, par balance, threes, fours, and fives. Lots and lots of ways. We can get into it more if you wish. Variety, sounds like it makes sense, but there's a lot of ways that we can talk about variety on a disc golf course. So you need great land. You need to make a bunch of great decisions, all in the name of balance and variety, which is affecting and hopefully complementing the experience of the person who's actually playing the game, getting the right balance of difficulty and playability and fun and so forth. So I like all 18 holes. I keep saying that. But really, I'm starting to get into smaller sort of cleanup stuff and sort of careful detail work, which is fun, but it's actually a little bit less rewarding in a dramatic sense. Like even up to last year, I made some big changes, and I'm still going, "Oh, I'm so pleased with that change. That's so cool." Well, I'm running out of those big changes, those big steps, those sweeping moves. So anyway, it's been a ton of fun, and hopefully that answers your question.
Well, Daryl, I think what we have to do, Gabe, was that was a great answer to that question. But Doc, in our comments,
I was gonna.
Are you going there?
Yeah, no,
we're on the same page.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Okay,
I was going to bring that up as well. So, one of our listeners in the chat, I'm just scrolling back to find his exact question here.
Well,
and
comment as I'm thinking.
Well, it's a comment, but we kind of
there it is
now.
Yeah, you're there, just a little higher.
No, here we are. Are you talking about?
I was going to say.
You're talking about that. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'll take it for 1 second, then I'll give it back to Daryl. So what I was going to say was, with that question and asking you that, Doc chimed in and he said, "Jeremy, why didn't you just ask him which is your favorite child and why?" It was a good comparison, and I get the sense because of how much pride you take in the course and that, and it is amazing to hear that. But go ahead, Daryl.
No, my question, and again, it's from Doc, is you mentioned about that you have 35 tee pads and 18 holes. And his question, and maybe there's you have a good reason for. I'm sure you do have a good reason, but he said you said 35 tee pads. I wonder what the idea behind multiple tee pads versus multiple baskets. So obviously, separating the tee pads. My kind of reply back to him was, you got to cater for AMs, FPOs, and MPOs, like you said about certain people like Thomas or Jake can break a hole just because they can throw really far. Maybe moving a basket to a different position doesn't necessarily take it out of their range. But is there, you have that in the future to maybe look at different, you mentioned about you're running out of the small changes you can make, or the big changes, but you can always make small changes. Is that something that you've considered, maybe moving different basket locations and then just kind of adding variety to the course that way?
And before you answer, Gabe, can I say, you said there's probably 100 different things about the variety that you could do.
Yeah.
This was one of the ones.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very reasonable question. I have thought about it a little bit. You just, especially in the winter, you kick around a lot of ideas. And I sort of spend time before I fall asleep some nights, just sort of in my mind and in my memory, being out on the course or thinking about stuff. I mean, whatever my reasonable facsimile memory of my own course is, like, it's not the same as being out there, but I'll spend a lot of time in that place. The difference for me about multiple baskets versus multiple tee pads has to do with the fact that I've built these green, I'll use the ball golf term, green complexes. Usually that means a set of contours on a green and a bunch of bunkers. So borrowing the fancy language for this case, but I've built all these greens to be, in some ways, sort of a singular experience if it works. And just putting another basket X feet behind it doesn't. It kind of dilutes the actual place that the green goes. Sometimes the green is beside a big tree or a pile of rocks or something fun. A number of holes have multiple positions that I will move the basket around. A number of holes have multiple sleeves. A number of holes have mobile base baskets, and I've been messing with the positions for years, honestly. Sometimes it's stealing a bit of land deeper, clearing out areas, whatever it is, left and right. Maybe this is a bias coming from the world of ball golf, where that's unheard of. There are not multiple greens on courses in ball golf, partly because building and maintaining a green is so ferociously expensive that it doesn't make sense in traditional golf. Earlier on, I built, got the course open, 18 holes, 18 tees, 18 baskets. And it was within about a year that I started to add another set of another set of tees. And that was quite a fun and very, very interesting, informative project, because in some cases I added a longer tee, which made for a longer hole and served the longer throwers better. And in some cases I actually added a shorter tee. So I kept the original idea of the hole, the basic original shape of the hole, and just made a softened, more amateur-friendly version of it. So both were the case at various points. Again, to try to hone in on the question a little bit, each of my greens has its own and again, green is a bit of a weird word for disc golf, but my target areas, if you will. Each of those has its own sort of shape and form, magic. In my opinion, I think they're wonderful. These little nooks and niches where there's a target and a set of trees that I've thought about very carefully, certain obstacles, certain shapes, uphill, downhill, and so forth. There's a few sort of themes on my course, and a few things that I think are kind of ways to produce the kind of ideal course. Here's another goofy idea. Maybe you'll like this because you guys are disc golf nerds in your own way. But I sometimes like to think about, hey, what if we imagined the ideal disc golf hole? What will we get with the ideal hole? And you might say, well, is it a par 3 or a 4 or a 5? And I would say, okay, if we're talking about ideals, the ideal is a par 4. That's the ideal. That doesn't mean 3s and 5s aren't great. It just means if we're playing the stupid game of saying, Superman's better than Batman, then we can say that I certainly say the par 4 is sort of the ideal form for a hole. And along the way, we can argue about some of the fine details, but in my opinion, the ideal par 4 is a long downhill tee shot. You want to see the place that you're throwing to. It's absolutely not a blind shot. It's absolutely not a blind dog leg. Ideally, if we're building the perfect hole in our own minds, it's going to be mostly downhill, very open. It's going to reward riskier shots. It's going to punish shots that were that attempted great distance or great throws that didn't work. It needs to punish that to some degree. It needs to not make you lose 3 strokes if you miss it, but it does need to make it so that you are rewarded with a successful attempt at greater distance, but you are also able to get into very good position with a more modest attempt. Okay, there's your tee shot, downhill, fairly open with some amount of options. Maybe there are multiple sort of mini fairways throughout, whatever it is. But the ideal, which is all I'm really talking about right now, is a downhill tee shot. Not way downhill, but downhill, and mostly that's for the view, the vista, and the sense that we're throwing into a fairly open space, but a well-designed open space will have interesting things happening there. It's not just a field, right? Disc golf in a field, on a flat field, is not good disc golf. So the next question is, what is the ideal green? And in my opinion, the ideal green is essentially an uphill shot. It would have some amount of open back so that you make it not simply a matter of just throwing to the target. Uphill means it actually gets pretty easy to stop the disc, and I think that's fine. An open back or a dropping off back is also a really good thing because it challenges you to get correct with your distance. So again, let's not go on and on about my thoughts about the ideal hole. Maybe you or your listeners have some thoughts. But I think if we're just trying to play this game about the ideals, it's downhill off the tee and it's uphill into the green, probably an open back that might have a deathy backdrop, probably some other features, probably some things that are going to block some of your approaches. Maybe you want some junk on the right-hand side to stop the easiest approaches. Maybe you want to say, I'm giving you all of the options off the tee, but I'm demanding a left to right upshot. But again, we're just talking about topography here, and in my mind, the ideal is uphill. So, did I answer your question? I have no idea.
Well, you've given well, the thing is you're giving us great answers. And
absolutely.
I'm thinking I've got some ideas. We'll talk after, but I got some ideas, Daryl, that we're going to need to throw around.
For sure.
Because Gabe's got a lot of thoughts, and I want to get some of those out of there.
But
we'll move to
I was just going to say, as much information you've given us about this course, we're really excited to play it. And speaking of playing it, we're going to be playing it next month because Nationals is coming up. We're heading out to Ontario. 4 great courses: P15, Newcastle, Cedar Creek, and Hope Goat. You're obviously just dealing with P15 and making sure that's up to scratch. How is the planning coming for that?
It's going well. It's a lot of work. I knew it would be a lot of work in the back end. I have to give credit to other people for doing most of that work. Daryl and his team are doing most of the back end organization, and that's, I mean, don't fool yourself. It's a ton of work, man. And by the time everybody looks at the money that kind of kicks through to the courses and the money that Daryl will take for his own efforts, nobody's really getting paid here. And if you would also include the work that people put into these courses prior, we're still getting, pennies an hour or something. So I mention that to give credit to the people who are doing a lot of work, but I'm also mentioning it because, as much as I love my disc golfing brethren and sisters, it's a group of people that like to bitch about money with respect to tournaments, as if tournaments are supposed to be basically paying people to play them.
Right.
And I get it. That's been the model for a long time. And a lot of, disc golf tournaments sort of started out as being kind of festivals and parties. And I think it's a wonderful thing, and thankfully that's not all gone. There's a lot of tournaments where you just sort of pay a small amount and you have a wonderful event, and there's a bonfire, and nobody makes any money, and it's not ranked, and it's not sanctioned, and all this stuff. That's wonderful, right? That's great. But when we get into the sanctioned tournament thing, where there's pros and there's purses and all that stuff, well, you're going to need better courses, and you're going to need to move a bit of money around. You're going to have to probably pay for the time you spend on the course. And if you're an amateur, whether you like it or not, whether you like this model or not, and I don't love this model, but this is where we live. If you're an amateur, you're also probably paying the pros. The course owners are paying the pros. The people who are doing the tournament organization and the volunteers are not getting paid. And the people who are paying money to participate in those events are paying the pros, and the people running the organization are asking for money to sponsor and donate are also paying so that pros will come. Now,
Right.
I'm not trying to complain about pros, because I'm a guy who built a course for pros as best as I was able to. I want pros to play my course. I always have wanted them to. The tournament model only breaks down when you are paying attention. It doesn't break down. It's questionable in its way when you have people complaining about the way that, in order to make a tournament go and to pay pros to get them to play, you need to bring in a bunch of money. And the old am scam is the line. I'm not actually talking about nationals at this moment. I'm talking about basically B tiers and A tiers. Nationals has, they've drummed up a ton of money. Yes, the model that Daryl presented each of the course owners when he came to us was, do you want to do this? If you are, there is money coming your way. This is how much each player is going to pay you. I can't remember all the details. But Daryl said, this is how it's got to be for you guys to do this thing with your asset, with the thing that you've built. I'm not going to ask you to give the value to the players. Almost every other tournament asks the course owners to give the value of a round or two to the players. And sometimes that's great. I mean, I have done that traditionally with the Project 15 Open. There's a way to fold some of the value that you declare for the pros rounds. You can fold that in and make it a piece of the purse when you're doing the mystery accounting. I don't really handle that stuff. My friend Carl does it. But this is the thing. You got to give these people money to come and play. And it's a privilege to have them at your course. It's even a privilege to have amateurs at your course. But the whole thing is this kind of mix of moving money around to make it go. And I don't want to complain about the people who complain about the money, but I did just want to point to the fact that you've got four great courses that do take in a little bit of money in order to operate. And they were gathered under the banner of this nationals thing. The way it all went down was crazy. I won't bore you with the details, but everything was sort of last minute and crazy. We agreed to do it on the promise of a certain amount of remuneration, and it went ahead. A few people complained, as you would expect, and now we're setting up for what should be a pretty exciting event. I think it might be one of the biggest disc golf events in Canada ever. I think it's fair to say it's perhaps the best collection of courses that's ever been put together. I think you can make that argument with the UDisc rankings alone, whether you agree with those opinions or not. And I hope we do something really special that people come out of saying, not only was the disc golf fun, not only did I feel like the extras, players packs and crokinole and bonfires, and not only was that really good, but it did have this wonderful Canadian disc golf festival vibe, and I saw lots of people I liked, and I was in a cool place, and I spent a bit of money on a local economy doing touristy stuff, and the whole thing felt like a huge success. And you come out of it saying, this is the model that works for nationals in Canada now. And if we set the bar high enough, this is like a good problem that you're trying to make. The next year, what are we going to do next year? Not me, not Daryl, not not us,
Whoever.
but like, what's the next deal? How are you going to get this many cool courses together in a central place and give this much back to the people? How are you going to beat this next year? It's just a challenge. And that's been something we hope to do from the start, to say, let's really knock it out of the park as best we can with the resources we have and the organizational skills we have. And again, that's mostly Daryl. I was pretty clear from the start that I want to help, but I don't want more administrative duties. So Daryl's been carrying the ball for the most part and deserves a whole lot of that credit.
Yeah. So just to recap, planning's going well.
Yeah. Well, no. And Gabe,
You're not answering your damn question again.
Yeah. No, you did a good. You did a good job.
I just finished the trophies too. Actually, we figured out a way to do trophies. I don't know if you've seen the trophies I do for my tournaments, but they're these sort of concrete wedges that have a face on them that you could put a plaque or a logo. So I just finished making those. We're getting the logos together, going to assemble them soon. So I'm kind of happy with that. It was a good thing for the sake of the tournament, and it's sort of special to the area and special to my course. And I don't think anybody objected to it being kind of my thing. I'm quite glad to share it, and it does help the whole event out a little bit. But I just finished those, so that's going well. When I'm done coaching football in the next little while, I'm going to turn my attention to getting ready for the tournament. The course is in pretty good shape. It's extremely dry. So I don't have a lot of like mowing and weed whacking to accomplish. But I do have some more pruning and sort of yearly upkeep stuff. And then I've got all the signage and all the other sort of tournament specific stuff, which I would like to point out. Most people, when they go play tournament, don't see the labor that goes in behind the scenes. Like, they see signage everywhere and they don't see that somebody had to ask that company for money, print a sign, find the logo, the graphics, print, put it in the ground, clean it up afterwards. That's all like invisible labor and invisible value. The same way that when you drive to your friend's house, you don't say, oh man, I see that the government organized this road building system and maintenance system and snow clearing system. Like, we just don't see this stuff. And it's a bit of an eye opener as you start to get involved in the back end of tournaments, just how much goes into making this stuff go, and how hard so many people work for so little to make these fun events.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a great point that you're making there. And one thing I'm already seeing from what you're saying, Gabe, and we're going to take it, kind of close it up a little bit here. But what I was going to say was that what you're saying with everything that you've set up for nationals, you have set a high bar, you and Daryl and Dan and Kevin and everyone involved, and you're going to hit it. And I think when everyone experiences nationals this year, hopefully there's some people, now we know there's some stubborn people, but hopefully there's that mindset change that, just as Sophia and Thomas mentioned when we had them on earlier, how highly they spoke about the experience in China, and they kept mentioning the experience and how that part was. They weren't talking about, the AM player packs, not that they would talk about that, but you know what I mean? They're not talking about those superficial things. It was about, they're always going to have these memories with them. I think what you guys are putting together for nationals is going to be like that. And hopefully AMs and pros alike get that new mindset to it. But
I think so. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. And what we'll say is, we've talked to, all the people we've talked to. You've heard most of the interviews, whether it's Sophia, Alicia Hums, Kat Johnson, even Elaine King, all of these people, the courses in Ontario, how much excitement they are to come up to Project 15 if they haven't been there. And the ones that have been, they say it's their favorite course over and over and over again. We got Robbie Holden coming on, and what he's found out when he does his polls as well. So we're super excited, and we're glad you're going to be a part of it. But I'm going to do my little bit of history lesson here as we wrap up, Daryl. So when I was researching for this episode, I learned a lot about the Selwyn area. Of course, the famous people who come from it. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
But also that it's on the edge of the Canadian Shield. A lot of the stuff Gabe's been telling us. Yeah. And it has some unique forests. On top of that, many lakes, many provincial parks. And when we're not disc golfing, we could literally be touring around, checking out islands like Wolf Island Provincial Park, Fairy Lake Island. And if we do, I certainly hope we don't get stuck on one.
He's getting better at these. That one was a little bit far-fetched, I think.
However, the ship goes down. You manage to swim to an island, and fortunately for you, there's an 18-hole disc golf course. Which 3 discs are you taking with you on the island?
Now, I don't know if there's any cruise ships going around these islands, but let's say you were on a cruise ship and it went down. You had your trusty bag with you, and all the other discs fell out, but the 3 discs you wanted to keep with you, you happened to take to this island. Which 3 discs would they be, Gabe?
Well, again, this is coming from a guy who's not a very good disc golfer, but I would pick a Vandal. I'm fond of the Vandal mold. Let's just say that I'd bring a Manta, which is an understable mid by Innova that I've always kind of
Yeah.
liked, and I'm sort of hot and cold with it. And just to sort of nod towards who I really am in the world of disc golf, instead of an extra disc, I'm going to bring a tool for course maintenance. I'm going to bring a pair of loppers. This is
Okay.
my, one of my standby tools. I think it's an absolutely essential tool for kind of that final polish on an area.
Yeah.
Get all the little stumps and the sticks and so forth, and a bunch of the pruning and the margin work. So, just to sort of give it a bit of a twist, I'm going to bring those 2 discs and a big pair of sturdy loppers.
All
Yeah,
right.
I love it.
Well,
Well, that kind of leads into the next part of the question.
Well, I was going to say, I think out of anybody we've ever had on the show before you get to the next part, most people are like, yeah, I know my 3 discs. I've got them right here. I've got this one. I've got this one. I've got this one.
Yeah.
And you hit them with the next one. They don't know where to go.
Right.
I think Gabe's got it the other way around.
Exactly. So the follow-up part to this is that if you could take any course, now whether you've played the course or whether it's just one that's on your dream list to play, and transport it to the course, transport it to the island, so that you're only going to ever play this course, which course would it be? And I think I might know, but the fact that you brought your loppers, it doesn't matter how long you're stranded on this island, it's always going to be in good condition because you're going to be doing maintenance as you're going.
Except for some of the stuff I can't reach, right? I mean, there's a whole
Yeah.
gradient of access that is key to how you do disc golf course design and maintenance. So it would end up being a very low ceiling disc golf course, like I'm talking about 9 feet tall. That's about
Yeah.
as far as I could reach. So if the question is what course would I transplant onto this island
Yeah.
after the 3 hour tour, I mean, I gotta say my own course. And I would hopefully have all the tools I need to keep it sharp. And maybe if this fantasy actually occurred, I'd have the time to actually get good enough at disc golf to find it really, really fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think we need to. We've asked this question to a few people that they always bring their home courses and things like that. And Doc's in the chat there says take his own course off the table.
Well,
I think we might need to do this as a bit of a follow up. That people that we know that work on courses or design them and things like that, they're obviously going to pick their home course.
Except not for Gabe, because like we're talking, why wouldn't you bring the top course?
That's very true.
You're going to bring one. You're going to bring the best. So
we'll do that next time.
Yeah. Well, Gabe, thank you so much.
Point,
It's been
good point.
Yeah.
I'm so glad this one worked out well and we didn't have the hiccups and stuff. And I think we could do probably 2 or 3 more of these for sure.
Oh yeah.
But before we let you go, I'm sure there's a couple things we missed, but you did say you wanted to do a couple shout outs. So if you want those shout outs or anything else that you wanted to mention, this would be the good time to do it.
Sure, I'll think of some stuff here. I just off the top of my head, let me say a big thanks to Carl Forbes. This is of course Nico's dad. He's better known as Nico's dad than Carl. To me, he's Carl. Um, and Carl's been a piece of my disc golf world almost from the very beginning. Good friend and kind of a you know someone with whom I've all of my tournaments have been connected to Carl. He's taught me a lot and been a big friend of the course and a friend of me. I want to say thanks to anybody who's ever worked on the course. Hopefully, I've made my gratitude very clear to you prior to this. But people have helped through the years, and I'm grateful. And a handful of guys, really great guys, continue to help. They know who they are. And I also want to say a special, more pointed thank you to the people who rallied just after the ice storm, which was at the end of March. The most recent one, I'm sure there'll be more. Um, Came out one morning to a tremendous amount of ice on all the trees, and the course was. I mean, I want to say smashed. It was very dramatically. A whole lot of stuff was down, and there's so much weight in the trees that a lot of trees have been bent over. And I think every single white pine tree lost about 30% of its branch, fell to the ground. So really, it was really beaten up. And with the Project 15 open, I think only 3 weeks later, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 5, I can't remember. I was feeling in that moment like I was just going to have to cancel the whole event because I wouldn't be ready. And a bunch of people, led by a handful of friends of mine, gathered. A bunch of folks from Toronto came up, worked for a day, played the course a bit, and I'm forever grateful. Not just for the support and the work, but the friendship and the feeling of connection that comes with that. These are people who appreciate the course and have come to the tournaments and are a part of my sense of this world and this community that so far has been such a treat to be a part of. So thank you to all those people, and to anybody coming to nationals. Looking forward to meeting you. I'll be right there welcoming you to the course and around, and please come say hi if you see me kicking around. Hope to have enough volunteers handy to not have to do all of the work of welcoming people and parking and setting up, but would love to say hello to you if you're coming through, and certainly mention that you like to listen to one of Canada's best podcasts, and we'll have a laugh about that. And I want to say, I just think this is great fun, man. Thank you for having me on. I've been a watcher of the show for a while, listener of the show, and it's fun to be a part of it. And you guys ask great questions, and I even like the little bits with the movies and the desert island discs and so forth. So this has been a treat. So thank you. And should you ever want me back to talk more stuff about disc golf and courses, I'd love to. So be in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had numerous questions that we didn't have time to get to, but I think you kind of touched on a little bit of all of them at some point. But yeah, definitely, it was one of the more enjoyable interviews. Not just because it wasn't just about disc golf; it was more like just the way that, I mean, that phrase is going to stick with me. It's going to stick with me. I can't
stick with you. The depth of knowledge
puzzles and postcards.
Puzzles and postcards. There you go. That was it.
Yeah.
I was thinking perfection. No, puzzles and postcards. Like just the way that you frame that up on the tee pad and thinking that's what. Yeah, that was just
awesome.
A great phrase. Yeah, which I'll remember for next time.
Well, thank you so much, Gabe. All the best there, Toronto. We'll see you. It's less than a month away. We can't wait for it.
Can't wait either, guys. Thank you again. Awesome. Really fun. Enjoyed this. Yeah. See you again.
Thanks, Gabe. Thanks for your time.
Well, there you go, Daryl.
Yeah.
That we've chatted with Gabe. We've had like texts and stuff like that. And I knew he was very deep and interested and introspective and thoughtful about his course design. But like I could have listened to that for a very long time.
Like it's so different to hear him describe how to put a hole in when a lot of people would think, okay, I've got this fairway. Let me put in a big high zero. Let me make it a dog leg left, or let me make it. But he looks at it and looks at the fairway and looks at the design and says, what can we put here?
Yeah.
What does the flow of the course look like, or the flow of the land?
Topography, everything that he's taking into consideration.
Yeah,
so
just to be able to, and from the walkthrough that we've seen of it, like you can definitely tell, like it is like it's like a pathway. It's like an adventure on every hole. So yeah, as much as it's going to beat us up, we never got to talk to him about give us some tips, but we know
the tips. Stay on the fairway.
Stay on the fairway. So yeah, I'm excited.
It's going to be awesome. And thank you, everybody, for listening and sticking around with us tonight. It's been a long time since we did a kind of a double episode like this.
Yeah,
but
bit of a long one.
It was a good one. We had 3 great guests, 2 great hosts.
Yeah, and a partridge in a pear tree.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you are listening still at this point and you haven't subscribed on YouTube, do that. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, all of those things. But we're going to get right to the end of this one so we can jump into our Fantasy Picks podcast.
Yeah, we're excited for that. Eastern Canadian Am Nationals is coming up. Biddy episode 6. A-Tier 7, Season 2 of the Chain Out Fantasy Podcast.
We got Robbie Holden, who's been waiting patiently. He's going to jump in and join us shortly.
Yeah, head over to patreon.com/chainout. Sign up for any tier, including free. You'll get the link. You can watch it. You can make your picks. You can vote on our picks. And then you can also see if Robbie is any good.
Yeah, I think he's going to do okay. He might know a couple players from the area.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we try and do, right? We try and give the guest a bit of an advantage, but we'll see. We've surprised people before.
Well, we surprised Oz last year.
Oh, Oz, that's what it was. Oz, yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
So last week we ended we usually come up with a weird, unique way to end the podcast, but we came up with the Deep Thoughts with Superhost Daryl.
Well, that was, okay.
So let's, maybe you can hit us with another one of your deep thoughts.
Let's end this episode by, I would just like to say, if you can imagine, every round is a fresh start. Every throw, a new chance. And every near miss, just a reminder that you're one putt away from greatness. Or maybe it was just a chain out.
Jane Allen.